们直接直播好了。来了。I'm streaming.
Oh.
Say hi to them.
Hello, I just got off work.
He's my husband. We've been together for more than 20 years.
You need to turn on your headlights.
Did I? Yeah.
No? You did now. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I think we should end the stream so you can...
It's okay. I'll let you do a talk because I've been talking too much.
All right.
Okay. Any questions for us? You can practice your English.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, I think they just keep watching me because there are still some people there.
Oh. So yeah, I just got off from my job teaching at a cram school.
Yeah.
And that is probably the #1 source of employment for foreigners in Taiwan. I mean, for Westerners, Western foreigners, like from the U.S., Canada, the U.K.
How was your class, babe?
It was pretty good. The last bit of class in the last class was a little bit crazy.
Were they still like a troublemaker?
Well, when I was signing their communication books, they started playing with toys in the classroom.
Your color?
Just the usual kid stuff.
Your face kind of red.
Yeah, it's the tail lights from the car in front of us. Not exactly the best lighting.
It's okay. It's just a live stream.
So yeah, yeah, that's kind of a sore point with some foreigners in Taiwan. It's relatively hard, difficult to start your own business here in Taiwan if you're a foreigner. But there are definitely 2 tiers of foreigners in Taiwan. There's the Western foreigners who come from English-speaking countries, and then the foreigners who come from countries like Malaysia or the Philippines. And things are even more difficult for them compared to
we were talking about our trip to the Philippines, and I told them why I kind of decided not to go again. I mean, in a while, because I think the main reason is because I had a big crisis of having that disease, and I
yes.
talk about it.
Okay.
So I'm still kind of scared right now.
Well, you just have to be careful wherever you go.
Yeah, but if we can learn a precious lesson from it, that's sort of worthy, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's no harm done. And
Hi, 麦当劳你好。His name is 麦当劳. Can you say
McDonald.
麦当劳.
Maybe he works at McDonald's, or maybe he's eating there.
If 各位可以打中文，如果你不会讲英文的话，你打中文，然后我请大家给我看好了。但我现在开车嘛，还是要小心一点，小心为妙。
So yeah, getting back to living in Taiwan, which I was talking about, the banking system is a bit outdated here, and it takes foreigners longer to open a bank account or do banking, and it's very, very difficult for a foreigner to get a credit card here. So, and also it's difficult for a foreigner to make as much money here if they're in a professional business, like say engineer in the science park.
Talking about what are you telling them why you can only be a teacher here?
Well, I don't have a degree in engineering, so the other big job here is engineering, of course, with the science parks and TSMC being headquartered here.
His name is 老公. Can you say 老公?
Hello, 老公.
老公你好.
老公你好.
老公 means husband.
Husband. So yeah, the other big field of work here is engineering with the science parks. TSMC is headquartered here. So the problem with getting foreign engineers in Taiwan is the pay for engineers is not commensurate with other countries like the U.S. commensurate
Commensurate, yeah.
with other countries like the U.S. Engineers here, that's another problem that Taiwan has with brain drain, and that is that engineers can make more money in other countries than Taiwan. So yeah, a lot of foreigners in Taiwan are English teachers, and that's because that's the easiest way for you to get a resident visa in Taiwan, is if you are an English-speaking foreigner from a country where English is the first language. So it's much easier for you to get a visa that way than, say, if you're a performer or you work in another field. So not everyone's cut out to be a teacher. I actually took education in the U.S. at university, and I was planning to become a teacher, so it's a good fit for me. But there are a lot of foreigners here who are kind of bitter about their choice of employment being limited so much. What else? Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the foreign laborers from countries like the Philippines and Malaysia and Indonesia. There's a lot of work for them in factories usually, or caretakers for elderly people. And the only problem is they don't have the same rights as I do, like English-speaking foreigners from English-speaking countries. And it's not fair at all. Usually they have to come to Taiwan under a contract, which means if they leave their job, they have to leave the country immediately, or they will be considered, overstaying their visa. Their visa will be canceled. And there's not an easy path for them to become residents of Taiwan unless they marry a Taiwanese person. So the treatment of laborers from other Southeast Asian nations like the Philippines is unfair in Taiwan. And I've talked about this with my adult students back when I taught adult Taiwanese people English. I said, Taiwan is undergoing a decline in birth rate. They need people to come and live in Taiwan. But I do think there is a fear of, the Taiwanese culture being co-opted or maybe corrupted. Corrupted is not a good term to use, but changed in some way by an influx of other Southeast Asian people. So there is a fear there. And if I'm being honest, racism also. And I'm not saying, that Taiwan is more racist than another country. There's racism in every country. I mean, if you look at the USA, you'll see some Americans saying that they don't want Mexicans coming in the country and taking over their jobs. So there's some racism in every country. It's not something that's only in Taiwan. But I think it's something that every country is going to have to take a look at, every developed country, because they are going to need workers, because their birth rates, developed countries' birth rates are declining, they're going down. They need an influx of young people from other countries to do the work, and they need to give those people a fair chance to become citizens of the country.
I think Taiwan is more open than other countries already.
It depends. It depends on what you're talking about. Someone asked if I live in Taiwan now. Yes, I've been living here for over 20 years in Hsinchu City, which is on the northwest coast of Taiwan. So yeah, I do have some knowledge about Taiwan, maybe not as much as Jason, who's lived here for about 50 years. but
Hey, hey, insinuating something.
but
You are not
I
much
do
younger
know
than
quite a
me.
bit about
You are only
Taiwan.
3 years old younger.
I try to be fair. Like I said, Taiwan is not the only country that has racist people. Unfortunately, racism is everywhere. But there are a lot of good things about living in Taiwan. And, oh, you're Taiwanese. So,
How many people watching now?
nice to meet you. Yeah, I was going to talk about the good things in
How
Taiwan.
many people? I can't read.
31.
Wow, that's a lot.
So, the good thing about living in Taiwan is, number one for an American is the healthcare system. Because the healthcare premiums are relatively cheap here. And
Compared to America,
the
it's a
healthcare
paradise.
itself is really good. So yeah, compared to America, it's a paradise. If you, I went to the emergency room once when I lived in America. That was over 20 years ago, and I was there for about 15 or 20 minutes. They found out that I had kidney stones, and they sent me home with some filters to pass the kidney stones, and gave me some pain medication. That's all they did. And my hospital bill was over $1,000, and that was back in the late 1990s. So I'm sure if you go to the emergency room in America now, it will be much more expensive. Also, I didn't have insurance at the time, so they asked me for 2 credit cards when they did my intake, when they did the interview before I saw the doctor. So yes, healthcare in America. America probably has some of the best doctors in the world, but the access to healthcare for poor people is non-existent. It also caused problems during the COVID pandemic in America, because a lot of the poorer Americans hate to go to the doctor because they don't want that huge bill to pay after they see the doctor.
You want to talk about how good Taiwanese medical system is?
Well, yeah, I had a scooter wreck a few years back in Taiwan, and I had a CT scan, and I think I was charged like $10. In America, a CT scan would be extremely expensive. My aunt, who was a nurse in America, she's retired now, said you couldn't even get an aspirin at a hospital in America for the price I paid for a CT scan in Taiwan. So the medical system is wonderful in Taiwan. I don't think Taiwanese people appreciate it enough, because it is so much better than in the U.S. I can't say enough good things about the healthcare system in Taiwan. It's extremely good.
How many of you are there?
396.
Oh, that's a lot.
Another thing that's good about living in Taiwan is paying your taxes. It's the easiest system I've ever seen for paying taxes. Once a year you go to the tax office, and they have a tax office in every town, every city. So you travel maybe 5 minutes to the tax office. They do your taxes for you. You sign a paper, or you give them your bank card so they can deposit your refund if you have a refund, and that's it. It's over. You don't have to pay an accountant to do your taxes for you. Now, I'm sure you would if you had a business. It would be more complex if you had a business, but if you're just doing personal taxes, they do those for you, and you just sign a statement and get a refund if you have one. That's it. Another thing that is great about Taiwan is there seems to be more of an entrepreneurial spirit here, in that you can find food stands on the side of the street. Even in medium-sized cities to towns, small towns, you can find food stands and people selling things on the side of the street.
So convenient.
In America, I think there's a lot more hoops to go through in order to start a small business and to be licensed. So So yes, it's much easier for Taiwanese people to like start a small business, I believe. Another thing is it seems to be much more free here. We don't have school shootings. Of course, most Taiwanese people cannot own guns.
Don't talk about that, might be banned.
Or firearms.
Yeah.
Firearms, okay. In America, people can own firearms, and if you've seen the news recently, there have been lots of school shootings in America. They're pretty much unheard of in Taiwan. In fact, Taiwanese students can still carry knives to school. They carry the X-Acto knives and the box cutters for art class. They don't have to carry clear backpacks. Teachers don't check their backpacks when they come to
you
school.
almost reach 1,000 watching WhatsApp. Oh man.
So it's kind of like, a utopia for children in that respect. Now, I'm not going to get into the Taiwanese education system, which is not a utopia. A lot of children go to school until like 9 o'clock at night, and they don't have time to be creative. So that's a bad thing. But when it comes to fearing for their lives, or fearing that there's going to be a shooting at their school, it's not heard of here. It doesn't happen. And students are trusted more. And I worry a lot about America, my home country, because by making students carry clear backpacks, or I heard in Michigan, a couple of school districts are banning backpacks. Children can't carry backpacks anymore. What you are teaching children is that you don't trust them at all. And so we are raising a generation of paranoid people in America by not trusting anyone. And I think this started after 9/11 in America, this idea that anyone could be a terrorist, anyone could be a school shooter, and it's kind of snowballed from there. We don't want to look at the difficult problems in America, and that is, each family doesn't need 10 guns. We need to invest in some kind of single-payer healthcare system that includes mental health, like here in Taiwan, to take care of people who have mental health problems before they go on a rampage and kill a lot of people. So yes, it's wonderful teaching in a school where I don't have to worry about a student coming to school with a weapon and hurting other students or teachers. We don't have a lockdown plan. We don't need one. There's no such thing in Taiwan. So that is a wonderful thing. And I wish that Americans would, take this more seriously and do something. They think they're giving away freedom by restricting gun ownership and by providing, more tax dollars for mental health. But what they don't understand is they are throwing away their freedom by putting their children in a system where they have to undergo training for school shootings. Some schools have metal detectors at the front door. It's like a prison. And children are growing up in this, and it's going to have a huge impact on their mental health when they become adults. So that's another great thing about living in Taiwan. Another great thing about living in Taiwan is I think Taiwanese people do appreciate their freedom. Taiwan has been a democracy for a much shorter time than the U.S. If I'm not mistaken, they gained the right to vote for president in 1996 for the first time. To put that into perspective, I was in university So I was an adult. It happened in my adulthood. And so it's a relatively short period of time to have a democracy. And Taiwanese people are well aware of what happens if you don't have a democracy. There are people my age who can remember their parents suffered under the White Terror era of the
That's why I was so
Kuomintang Party or KMT Party. Up until 1987, there was martial law in Taiwan, and there was a de facto dictator, Chiang Kai-shek. And if you spoke out against him, you could be disappeared, you could be sent to prison or killed. I'm sorry, Jason, what were you going to say about that?
That's why I was kind of surprised when, one of the weightlifter, who held a Chinese flag.
Oh, you mean Taekwondo? Was
Taekwondo?
it Taekwondo? Okay. Yes. Recently in the news, there was a Taekwondo master who held up the Chinese flag, and I noticed he looked rather old, didn't he?
Yeah, like maybe in his 40s.
40s or 50s. He's old enough to remember the White Terror era in Taiwan, and so I think it's sad that someone who can remember martial law in Taiwan would.
No, today he made a very ridiculous statement by persuading Taiwanese people to go home. You know which home he referred to?
Okay, so the Taekwondo master made another statement recently saying that Taiwanese people should go home, and he's insinuating that China is Taiwan's home. But in fact, the People's Republic of China has never had control of Taiwan. Taiwan's history is rather complex, but one thing that's easy to find out is that the People's Republic of China, which is run by the Communist Party, has never had control of Taiwan. In fact, under the Qing dynasty in Taiwan, the Qing dynasty didn't even have control of all of Taiwan. They had control of part of Taiwan. Then the KMT Party, following World War II, took control of China. They regained control of China from the Japanese. Of course, the Japanese invaded China in World War II and caused a lot of death and suffering in China. So the KMT, Kuomintang, took control of China after World War II. There was a civil war in China between the KMT, or Kuomintang, and the Communist Party. The Civil War was never resolved. The Communist Party eventually took control of China and named it the People's Republic of China. The Kuomintang retreated to Taiwan and took control of Taiwan and named it the Republic of China. So legally, that's where it stands right now. When the Kuomintang relinquished control of martial law and relinquished control of the government to a democratic system, Taiwan became a democratic nation. Even though it is not officially recognized by most of the countries in the world, it is a de facto independent democratic nation.
All right, so what do you like the most in Taiwan
now? Right now, I think it's hard to put my finger on any one thing. I think the Taiwanese people are very friendly, but they are not friendly when they're behind the wheel of a car. And
are you talking about me?
That's something, well, you and not just you, a lot of Taiwanese people are that way. And that's part of the culture that needs to change. But overall, Taiwanese people are quite friendly. I've had people return my phone to me when I've lost it here. I had someone pick up my wallet and return it to me a long time ago. So, by and large, the Taiwanese people are very friendly. Crime rate is very low, except for, you know, traffic offenses. So I would say probably the people are my favorite part of living in Taiwan, but also, of course, the healthcare and this value of freedom that people have in Taiwan. I think all of those things are great about living in Taiwan. So, you know, I'm worried about the upcoming presidential election. I know that the DPP party hasn't addressed all of the issues that they need to address, like low pay for professional jobs. They need to address that. They need to address, you know, the fair treatment of workers from Southeast Asian countries. And they need to address the traffic issues. So there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, but I think the idea that Taiwan can go back to this strategic ambiguity of before is impossible, and it's not because of politics in Taiwan, it's because of politics in China. It has become impossible for Taiwan to go back to, you know, just kind of hiding in the shadows and maybe showing up occasionally in a sports competition as Chinese Taipei. That's not going to be enough for China. That's not going to appease China under President Xi. So we can't fool ourselves that we can go back to the status quo of strategic ambiguity with Taiwan. For China, that's not enough. They've been saying very overtly that they will take back Taiwan by force if necessary. And we all know what happened to Hong Kong. We all know what awaits if China makes good on its promise. And the Taiwanese people do not want that. They do not want to become Hong Kong. They don't want to have a national security law where people can be extradited back to China for speaking out against things that are wrong in the government. At least now, you know, under the current government in Taiwan, you can criticize the government. You can make your grievances known. But under a system such as Hong Kong has now, that's impossible. And we don't want to throw that away in Taiwan. All right, I think we're about home now. So thank you for listening to me talking about living in Taiwan and kind of a little bit about the politics in Taiwan. Like I said, I've been here over 20 years. So I might not know everything that a Taiwanese person knows, but I do know a lot about what's going on here. And I hope Taiwan can remain free and can remain a democracy. I hope they can adjust to the issues that every country is going to be facing in the future, and that is reduce natural resources, reduce birth rate. That's going to be an issue for many countries. I think Taiwan can tackle it if they open up to, you know, freedom-loving people from around the world and allow people to call Taiwan home, no matter where they come from. All right, thank you for watching. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Jason. He's Alan.
I'm Adam.
If you guys are interested in our channel, you are also welcome to subscribe us in YouTube channel called Jason Adam TV.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, do I hit this button?
Yep, I think.
Okay.